All right, it's holiday weekend. Let's do the podcast. All right, we have had one short tracker on this show, and it was a long time ago, but we got another one for you today, and this gentleman is about as hot as you can get in the sport. All the way from Montreal, we have William Dandjinou.
Hey.
Good afternoon, good evening. Yeah, I guess it's evening over in Montreal. So I guess first question, are you fully packed? Because you have to get on a really big airplane and head to China in less than 24 hours, right?
Yeah, I'm almost finished. Some, late things to pack still. Toiletry stuff and my toothbrush. So yeah, but I'm getting there.
Fantastic. Well, you've to say you've had a good start to the season is a massive understatement. Researching your brief career here, these last say maybe 24 months or so have been incredible. But as we like to do on this show, that it's all about telling the stories and getting to know the person. So, take us through, how did you find the sport, and just take us through the early years.
Right. So I think I started really getting into short track when I was 6. My parents just put me into the sport. I watched the sport on television in 2006 for the Olympics. I saw a few good skaters in short track and long track. I liked a lot. I like to watch Shane Davis. For sure, he was an inspiration for me just because of him being black, and I could relate to him easily as a young kid. So yeah, Shane was definitely part of me starting out, and also just the whole Canadian national team that always does good in the Olympics. I was so inspired, so my parents just decided to put me into the sport, and yeah, the rest is history. But I think I also did a lot of other sports when I was a kid, but short track always stayed with me. So I'm fortunate enough that I got to keep doing it this long.
So what other sports did you try, and what were you good at?
I tried a bunch of sport: gymnastics, track and field. I did some soccer. I started a little bit doing hockey too. I did some just road cycling for a while. So yeah, I might be forgetting some, but yeah, my parents just wanted me to burn as much energy as I could. So yeah, they just wanted me to keep my mind and my body busy. Yeah.
So as it exists right this minute, I mean, you're 20 years old now, or 23.
23, yeah.
Yeah, 23. So you're quite tall for a short track skater. When you were starting out, were you taller than everybody back then, or were you kind of more the same size as everybody?
Yeah, I've always been on the taller side. I've rarely been the biggest, but yeah, most of the time I've been the tallest. And yeah, people were telling me when I was growing up, yeah, you should try long track. But unfortunately, in Quebec, the province I live in Canada, there's not a lot of just long track ice rinks. And I live in Montreal. I've always lived in Montreal pretty much. So yeah, the closest one is 3 hours away, which is pretty far. So I just started in short track, and I got good results in short track. So it was harder to justify the fact that I could switch if I was already getting pretty good results in short track, and it was not very convenient to start long track in the first place.
So when you're 6, 7, 8 years old, it probably didn't take you too long to realize, hey, it seems like I'm pretty fast and I'm pretty good at this and I'm winning a lot. How old were you when you kind of felt like you were getting serious about it?
I think around 13 or 14 years old. That's pretty much when in Quebec we start having national level competitions, and I was doing good at those national level competitions as well. So I wasn't always winning, but being part of a strong country, strong short track country, and getting good results in your age group on a national level is always a good start, you know. So I knew something could happen, and I could be part of something bigger. So yeah, it was always very motivating for me to be part of Canada and having good results in Canada, because I knew I could probably bring those results to an international level and they would translate pretty well.
So at some point, you probably started thinking, "Hey, maybe I can make a junior world team."
Yeah,
So,
definitely. Yeah. So
how old were you when you did that?
my first juniors were at 17. Um, and yeah, it kind of took me by storm because I hadn't qualified to the national junior championships the year before. So I had no clue how the qualification system worked or anything. And then um, during the summer, I got recruited by CRCE, which is a regional training center here in Montreal. Um, Most of the good short trackers go through that center before just getting better and moving on to the national team. So yeah, during this, I had a huge summer. Wasn't expecting such a big progression, and then I qualified for national juniors, and I ended up doing very good on the first day, uh, which gave me a boost in confidence. And also, my coach like started talking to me about like what was the next step and everything. So yeah, I ended up winning the first 500 meters, and then I remember I couldn't sleep the whole night because that was pretty much my golden ticket to the juniors, and I didn't even know what that meant. You know, like who would I face on the international level, and yeah, it was just crazy, especially since the juniors that year were in Montreal, my home city, so my family could go see. So yeah, I ended up winning the first 500 meters, and getting second in the 15, and then I couldn't sleep the whole night because I knew I was like pretty much qualified, and I think the 1,000 I finished like eighth. Um, but yeah, that was also a pretty good lesson for me to like the competition is never over till it's over, because then I could have been the junior national champion, but I didn't get to that title because I was just so excited. So yeah, had to. I took some maturity since then, but yeah, it was definitely a good experience for me.
So, so that was a junior national championship,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So then, how about junior worlds?
So junior worlds, both time I went, I got no results whatsoever. I think I was part of really a good junior like class actually. Like all the juniors that I competed against when I was junior, either ended up getting like Olympic medals, world championship medals, or I'm competing against them right now. So I think we were really a good class of juniors, and I never had incredible results. Even in the relays, we often do good in Canada in the junior relays, but our year never got a podium. So that was extra motivation for sure, but was also very surprising because I just told you, like, growing up, I always thought that if I was getting good results on a national level in Canada, then that would automatically translate into like really good performances on the international level. But yeah, I quickly noticed that that wasn't necessarily the case, and the shock was even bigger because the year I qualified for my the year after I qualified for my first juniors, I also qualified for World Cups, and I was expecting like, yeah, okay, I'm maybe the fifth best guy on the national team or sixth best guy on the national team right now, so I should be doing like A finals or B finals, you know. And that was far from the truth. I remember that year I think I never got to the main program, so I always stayed in repêchage. Maybe once I got out the repêchage, so that was pretty hard. But you know, I was still the youngest on the team, so I didn't take that too hard. But yeah, definitely some special experiences that I got pretty young in my career.
So for the long track fans that we have of this show, you just used a term that some of us might not know. So take us through that process, like in a race weekend. How do things get split up, and how do I end up in that repêchage?
Yeah. So honestly, it can be hard to follow because like this year we changed a little bit of the format to appeal more to the fans, but the rule of thumb is that Fridays is like are never the main program. So it's just qualifications. So you go through the rounds and hope you're gonna get through the top 20 skaters. Um, so if you don't, then in the Saturday and Sunday mornings, you get the chance to uh, come back from like not qualifying to be in the top 20, and then so that's in the morning, and then in the afternoon you get the main program, which is like for the 500 meter. It's starting the quarterfinals, so top 20 skaters. So it's 4 heats of 5 skaters, and then you go quarter, semi, and the final. And yeah, the repechage is basically a second chance to get to go from not skating with all the fans and the main like contenders. And if you do good in the repechage, then you get a chance to be the 20th guy, um, the 20th ranked guy, and then participate in the quarterfinals. It's a little bit different in the 15 because the heats are usually have more skaters in them. So the quarterfinals is actually only 3 races of 7 skaters, and yeah, that if you do the quick math, it's 21 skaters. So you get to be the 21st skater and like yeah advance to the next round of qualification.
Gotcha. Well,
Yeah,
that was some of the stuff that I wanted to cover. Is like, what does a race weekend look like? But getting back
yeah,
to
it's
your
pretty intense.
timeline, you did some international stuff now. At that point in your life, you're in your late teens. Was this the first time that you're kind of seeing different parts of the world, or had you traveled a little bit before that?
Yeah, so I got the 2 junior years to travel a little bit, but yeah, my junior and senior competitions were kind of mixed up because I qualified for my first World Juniors, and then at the end of the season, I got to do some traveling as well for the like senior World Cups. So I was doing kind of both at the same time, and it was crazy because in my head I'm doing senior World Cups, but I'm still not getting results on the junior level, which yeah didn't really function for me. But but yeah, it was my first time traveling. I had to manage it with school too because I wasn't in a like sports program, so that was pretty hard. And then yeah, just amazing experiences. I made a lot of friends. Learned from the best too. My first World Cups, I got to race against and with Charles Hamlin, who's arguably, if not the best skater of all time. And yeah, just being with him and learning from him, how he competes, how he's outside of competitions, how he's in the hotel, how he likes to take his off days, which is very inspiring and just helped me. And I think is a big part of my results today. So yeah, I think I'm very fortunate to have been on that team. And I was talking about expectations on being on the Canadian team. I think the biggest part of what helps you to be on a big team and what the team Canada the Canadian team sorry helps you with is just showing you the way. It's like if you're alone in your country, it might be more difficult because you have to navigate through uneasy waters in without having a guide. But for me, it was super easy because well, I wouldn't say super easy, but like easier probably just because I had those guys, Charles, Pascal Lyon, who just took his just retired a few months ago. Steven, who I still compete with, like older guys that went to the games that like been there for a long time and they can show you like, yeah, be careful of that's a mistake. Try to cater towards more that kind of attitude in competitions and stuff like that.
Well, it sounds like you were treated really well by these older guys when you came in. That I think that's incredibly important. And I've also learned in my time in the sport, it seems like there have been moments with short track in particular where there's been cases of, kind of poisonous coaches or toxic environments with teammates and things. And it's great to hear that your experience has been largely positive with the Canadians.
Yeah, I think of course coming into the team as a young guy, people don't want you to beat them, right? I think the whole point of short track is that you always get a chance to win a race, and it's lines are not as clear as in long track. I think in long track, like you can win fair and square, whereas in short track sometimes you get the calls or like just people bumping into each other. So yeah, if you start to be seen as a menace, then it might be a problem for the team. But I think although I've had some problems globally, it's been a very I'm just grateful of my experience and the way that the Canadian team helped me just be where I am today. So yeah, I think in any competitive sport you can have some toxicity, but globally, I'd recommend short track. Yeah, it's not as bad as long trackers seem to think.
Okay. Um, I just thought of something. So
Yep.
when I watch you compete, whether it's 500 or 15, if I'm watching you, it seems to me like you just want to be in the lead all the time. There isn't any kind of, I'm going to draft off this guy, and like, is that really just your strategy at this point in your career? Is you just got to find the front?
Yeah, well, that's a very interesting question. I do love being in front for multiple reasons. First of all, it depends also on the distance. So, like 1,015, I might not want to be as much in front. But just statistically speaking, the front position is the one that's more guaranteed to win, right? So, starting at a certain number of laps, depending on the distance, if you have the pole position, then you're maximizing your chance to finish in the top three. So that's already very interesting, and I think that's something I like to do. I don't only just analyze my technique and what I'm doing, but also I really believe in statistical analysis, and that's one thing that helps me a lot. Yeah, and for the 1,000 for sure, I think in the last few years, every 1,000 has been won from the top two, and rarely from the top three. I think you can do good races from like way back, but then you're probably not going to win the race. You know what I mean? You can maybe finish two or three, but you're not gonna win. And on the Canadian team, the objective is always clear that you want to go for gold, and we also encourage people to try gold, even if that means you're going to fall. And so we prefer someone falling to try to get gold than to just settle for second. And I think that's
Really?
how, yeah, and that's
Huh.
how we do it in the short on the short track team. And I think that transpires through our racing as well, and through our results. But it wasn't always easy because it's easier to settle for a silver and a bronze. But yeah, I think globally that's why my strategy is like that. Also, my natural like body build helps me pull a lot of laps. So I'm taller than most of the guys. So being in the back is less of an advantage probably, and I can use my length to do a bunch of things with my like blocking and track control. I can use also my length to bring me as far as possible in the corner, and that helps me just keep speed. So I have a maybe a little bit of easier path to keeping my speed throughout the laps, so that helps me. But yeah, just a bunch of stuff that helps me and just makes sense for me to be in front. And the last thing I would say is just that, yeah, I'm always or most of the time in front, but there's also ways to do it. So you can keep your energy while being in front. I won't spoil all my secrets, but there's a bunch of stuff you can do to make it easier on yourself to be in front, or to making it harder on other people. So yeah.
Interesting. So it seems like at this stage in your career, you've got a really good handle on who you are, how you approach a race. You seem very confident. I'm guessing it wasn't that way when you were, a junior becoming a senior, and did it just take a lot of failure and watching other guys to kind of figure out what's best for you?
Yeah, that's another very good question, man. So, first of all, the biggest thing for me is that I have a atypical like body build for a short tracker, right? There's not a lot of short trackers above 6 feet, and I'm 6'3", so already that comes with challenges. And I had to understand at an early age that I wouldn't be the same skater as the skaters I wanted to be. You know, like I've always watched a lot of the Korean guys skate, and girls, like very impressive skaters. Technically, it looks like magic when they skate. You know, but the thing is, I'm like the complete opposite body build as them. So I had to understand that if I wanted to be a great skater, it would be my own way and using my own strength. But I didn't always understand that. And one thing that helped me through that process was not qualifying for the Olympics in Beijing. So I was a substitute for those Olympics, which was, yeah, pretty hard. But I had to do a whole bunch of introspective thinking and try to just understand the why I wanted to be a speed skater and what I wanted to bring to the sport and how I wanted to bring it. And the more I thought about it, the more it was just like plain simple that if I wanted to be a great short track speed skater and do it my way, I had to be authentic to what I like doing on the ice and how I like to do it, and approach it more as something professional, but still having fun while doing it, you know? So I think most of the young guys, they fall into the trap of thinking like, yeah, either I'm just having fun with it or I have to be like grinding all the time and just putting maximum effort into every rep. And I think that's oversimplifying the complexity of how good a high performance athlete can be and what it takes to be a high performance athlete, basically. Yeah, just grind. If it was just about grinding, everyone would be world champion, you know. But I think, yeah, but it's true. Like I think you have to be careful about the small things and be aware about what, like, basically being as efficient as possible and not just outworking people. And that's something that I used to do, trying just to outwork people. And I think I still do in some sense, but I try to be smart about it, and it's been giving me pretty good results in the last few years.
Let's go back to 22 because I think that was a really, really important moment in your career, and I got a couple questions about that. So number one, when you found out that you were going to be a reserve, did you believe going into those trials that you were for sure going to make it? Do you think it was a situation where maybe you had a certain level of confidence and then you didn't meet that expectation, so it was crushing?
It was harder than that because actually I didn't think I would qualify at all for the Olympics. Okay. Well, not really. I knew I had good chances, but I was pretty much the guy that would create a surprise if I qualified.
Okay.
The thing is, the qualification in Canada is in 2 steps. So you qualify first nationally, and then so they take the top 6 nationally, and you're in like the racing pool of people that can go to the games, but they only select 5 guys. So in the national selections, I actually finished 4th, if I'm not mistaken. So it was a super big surprise, and in my head, I'm like, damn, I'm going to the Olympics. But what was heart crushing is that the coaches had to choose who was skating which distances at the Olympic qualifiers, like the Olympic qualifier World Cups. I think that was the name. So at every World Cup, they would choose who would skate which distances, and then according to the points you would get, you would like secure your position, right? But I basically got just one race to prove that I was worthy, and I failed. I didn't qualify. But the thing is, at that time, I felt it was a big injustice because even if I finished 4th, a lot of guys got a lot more opportunities to qualify for the team. So they got like, let's say 2 or 3 distances, whereas I got one on the worst ice possible for a big guy. So it almost felt like it was rigged, you know. Even though at first I wasn't expecting to do it, when I got into the process and I qualified 4th, I was like, damn, they kind of have to bring me because I'm the 4th best guy, you know. But yeah, I think for multiple of reasons I didn't get to qualify, and I think you can blame it on the injustice, but I think I should blame it more on myself for not being ready. And the saddest part for me was not being there for the team because I was too focused on like, yeah, why am I not skating? Why is this guy skating? I deserve my spot, and I didn't help the team. And also, in retrospective, like if I'm just thinking about the whole competition and the whole process, I didn't enjoy the process because I was too focused on the final prize, and that's what I'm trying to not do in the future, and that's what's been helping me because if you just focus on the process and like what you're living and not focus on the results, then you have a better chance of mastering your craft and not just hoping you get good results, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that for me was super important, and I think bottom line was that the coaches took a good decision because my team won a gold medal in the Olympics. Even though I wasn't on the ice with them, I was still part of the team, and that took for me a long time to understand. But when I understood it, I think we've been getting better results because I could help the team as a whole, but also understand what my contribution to that team really meant to you.
Yeah, it sounds like, you know, it was disappointing maybe at some level, but maybe it was the best thing that could have happened to you. It seems like, just from what you're telling me, all that you learned from that you could take forward, way better than a single individual appearance that maybe wouldn't have gotten you to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, we could always like ask what ifs, and was it the best decision? Was it the worst? I don't know, but I decided to look at it as with a positive outcome, and I was like when I didn't qualify, when I did qualify, sorry, I was like, no way, I'm going to let this define me and define what my skating career was, and so I decided to take as positively and bring as much of a positive attitude as I can to whatever the team is going to be in the future, and that's just been working out for me.
So I read somewhere that at that moment or somewhere around that time you actually were considering maybe just stepping away from the sport. Is that true?
Yeah, actually, I mean, I wasn't only thinking about stepping out of the sport. I was actually thinking about going to long track, and I
Oh,
did. I did for so when I didn't qualify for the games, the first thing I did was was get go to Apex. This is like 2 blocks away from where I live, and I asked Mathieu to make me new boots and new long track boots. So I was just ready to switch. I was like, nah, my first reaction was like, I'm done with short track. I don't want to go through that injustice again. And I think that was a little bit of immaturity on my part, but I got to try long track, which I loved. Uh, and yeah, I don't do long track right now because I'm really focused on the world tour and the world championship in short track, sorry, but definitely going to do long track in the future. And yeah, I got a funny story. I'm gonna go back to that, but yeah, I think when I do go to the long track, I want it to be because I'm ready to switch and not because I'm sour that I didn't get good results in short track or that I still have something like some chip on my shoulder from short track. I want it to be done with short track and then move on to something that might be a new challenge for me. And I'm not done with short track yet. But yeah, going back to long track experience. So basically, I just get my new skates. I've never been on long track skates. I never used like the clipping blades. I don't know how you call it in English, but we call it
clap.
claps.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, same. And yeah, so I decided to go on like a local meet, a provincial meet, and just like wing it pretty much. And I did get some good results for a guy who never skated on long track boots. But yeah, it was also humbling to be like, because I think a lot of the perception from short trackers, because we've been having so many good short trackers that did do long track eventually and got good results, were like, yeah, if I go to long track for sure I'm getting good results. But it's harder than we think, and I think that was also a humbling lesson for me. But I did get some pretty good results, so I was happy with my times for a guy who never skated on long track ever. But yeah, it was was pretty cool.
Do you, as we sit here right now, can you remember your first senior medal?
My first senior medal, yeah, it was last year actually. That's the craziest part is that I've done last year was my third or fourth um, senior level, like internationally, like the third time I competed, the third year in a row I competed in the international level senior competition, but it was only my first medal. So it was in Montreal in front of my home crowd. It was a bronze medal, so I was pretty disappointed actually because, I was talking about the mentality in the Canadian short track team, and I remember the race so clearly. I was put up against Park Ji-won, who was the Crystal Globe winner the year before.
Yep.
And mind you, it's my first final A, and I'm feeling pretty good. I'm on my home ice, so I'm like feeling the ice pretty good as well. And we do 1,000 meter, so I'm skating it, trying to get lead position, but Park Ji-won also likes the lead position, so he takes it from me, and then I tried to defend a little bit. The other Koreans, because I was against the Koreans, which was already a big task to ask someone who's doing his first final A. And so yeah, I'm trying to manage them, and I end up being pretty able to end up being able to manage them pretty well, and being in a position where I can attack Park Ji-won. So there's like one lap to go, and he's in front, and he knows how to control the front so well. So at that point, every experienced skater knows it's pretty much over, right? But I'm like, nah. My coach told me it's goal or nothing, so I'm gonna try it. And I end up just pushing as hard as I can, opening the door a little bit to try to make a pass. And the other Koreans see it as an opportunity, so one of the Koreans does a late pass, which is the pretty much the hardest pass you can do in short track speed skating. And he does a late pass. He bumps into Park Ji-won. They both wipe out, and then the two other guys come in, and so I go from being second to third. So I lose like my silver medal, and Park Ji-won actually doesn't do. He just falls, and I think he finishes like fifth. So yeah, that was like a big welcome to the international scene moment, where it's like, yeah, anything can happen until the last corner, and it's not because you think you secure the second position with one lap to go that you actually have.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was my first medal. And the craziest part was the week after, it was still in Montreal, and I got my first gold medal, so I learned pretty quick how to readjust to that level. But yeah, that was pretty crazy.
Well, you must have had a hell of a off season, because we've got 2 events under our belt this year, both in Montreal. Yeah. And if I'm reading this correctly, stop me if I make a mistake. 1,500 gold, 500 gold, 1,000 you must have gotten taken out or something. You didn't make it to the final. Yeah. 5,000 relay gold. Then next stop, 1,500 gold, 500 silver, 1,000 gold, and another gold in the 5,000 relay.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a lot of hardware.
Yeah, it is, but I think like 2 of the golds you mentioned were with the team events, so that just shows how strong of a team we have. And amongst those podium, I think I shared podium with another Canadian on 2 or 3 occasions. So already that shows that it's not just a single effort, but that we have a strong team. And so to be able to be part of that team and learn from them on the daily is very important, because to practice stuff like passes, track patterns, and everything, you have to be able to work with other people. And if those people have already an incredible level, then it's easier for me to just work on, okay, how I want to control someone from the front, how I want to pass him from the back. So yeah, we're talking about the fact that I'm comfortable being in front, and that's because I've been working and being able to protect my position for so long with among the best skaters in the world. So when I go to on the international level, it's, I wouldn't say easier, because the level internationally is always super hard, especially this year. But I get like the first taste of what I'm going to experience on the international circuit at home on home ice, and it's easier to work those patterns that way.
All right, I'm going to ask you a really tough question.
Okay.
And don't give this too much thought. Just see if you can answer it. And I want to know if you can give me a single answer to this question. And if you can't,
Sure.
tell me. Who is, right this minute, who is the best male short tracker on the planet?
Yours truly. But I think, yeah, but I think like I think the results talk for themselves right now. But what they don't show is the whole process I went through. And things can change fast, man. So
Yeah.
I'm not sitting on a throne and saying, yeah, I have it right now. It's just keep pushing, keep working hard. And yeah, I can't sit on a throne and think I'm the best because I see the level of my teammates every day, you know.
Yeah.
So I might be having the best year so far as an international short track skater, and I do believe that right now I am the best. But I am reminded every day by my teammates that I'm not so good that I can stop working and just yeah, just sit back and lay back on what I've done. So it's a whole process, man, and I'm just grateful I have those teammates and that staff team to build
Well,
me up to where I want to be.
that was a good answer.
Thank you.
Dubois is pretty fast, I'm not going to lie.
He's, I can't say everything because you know we train together, and I wouldn't want some information on him to leak that um, he wouldn't want. But yeah, we've been doing some speed training very recently, and I think I've seen times that I've never seen from anybody ever on short track ice. So
Cool.
it's pretty crazy, man. I think the team we have right now is just doing some incredible stuff, and we're working very hard, and not just hard, but we're using our brains to be as efficient as we can. So
Well, there's a lot of talk. Let's actually watch a couple things that I put together. Unfortunately, these clips are really short because that's what YouTube does to some of these things with licensing and such. But I believe if I'm looking at this clip, I think this was the first medal of this new season. Let's just watch this finish real quick.
yeah,
Before he got on the ice here, Dandjinou looking to take the first gold of the World Tour. William Dandjinou stumbles. Does he have?
So there's our photo finish. So I have a
yeah.
question for you. It's kind of funny. It looks like Dubois is celebrating for you. I know that's not what he's doing, but it kind of looked that way. So I have a
Yeah, we
question
do
for
celebrate
you.
together though.
Oh yeah. So as Park on your bumper there, as you guys go into that final, going for the line. So I watched that in slow motion, and as you're coming off the final corner, you actually kind of, as you're taking that last stride and you're going to tomahawk, you kind of swing into him a little bit.
Yeah.
How much is really allowed? How much can you really lean into the guy when you're going for the line?
I think it's more about intentions. Like, if you're looking at it from the track pattern point of view, I actually lose my grip. I slip out. So I try to come back, and I don't see him while I'm coming back. So once I'm already doing that comeback action, there's not a good way for me to stop, right? And then he's there. You see him take his arm as well, and there's no like hard feelings or anything. It's just when we bump or just have contacts, we have to be careful about ourselves and others. And if I would just like not put my arm, I'd probably just bump into him and we'd fall, right? Or we'd bump into each other and just hurt ourselves. So I think, yeah, there was no call for a reason. It is quite risky because every time you touch someone in short track, and it happens a lot, you are vulnerable to being like disqualified or in that position. So I try to touch people as like the fewer times possible, basically. But yeah, it's pretty technical stuff, and people tend to think short track is a lot about luck, but there's always some technical and tactical stuff going on. So right there, I bumped into him, which was indeed pretty risky because if the referee hadn't seen that I didn't have control, I could had gotten disqualified. But you have to analyze, why did I slip or why did I come back? So I came back and created contact because I wasn't super confident on my pushes and slipped out a little bit, right? So if the race I got was like, I took care of the race perfectly. If I had dealt with that race perfectly, there wouldn't even have been a photo finish, in my opinion. So I did a lot of technical mistakes in the last 2 laps. I think tactically it was an incredible race, but technically I did a lot of technical mistakes, which led me to slip out in the last corner and put me in a situation where there wasn't contact. And that, for me, is a bad situation. Every situation where there's a contact is a situation where you can be disqualified. So if they had disqualified me, I could have said like, "Oh, it's unfair. I don't deserve a disqualification." But I think the good attitude to have is like, okay, I did a mistake that created a situation where I was vulnerable to disqualification. Or I talked about how I fell in the thousands and lost an opportunity to get a medal. If you look at that race, I fall, but I fall for a reason. No skater at that level falls for nothing, you know. So if I failed, that means I made a mistake somewhere that made me fall, and I have to analyze the why and not the consequences. So that's very important in short track, and I think that's something that most people don't understand. So that's why short track has a reputation of being a sports based on luck, which kind of is technically, but yeah, it's more about maximizing your probabilities to win, and yeah, that's what I try to do.
So in that case, Park was in second, and you've shared the ice with him a lot.
Yeah.
As you're going into the final corner, you know Park is behind you. Do you have a sense of what his tendencies will be to try to pass you? Is he always going to try to just hook and come in on the inside, or aren't you really sure what he's going to do?
The thing is, I don't have to know his tendencies at that moment, or even who's second, because at that speed we're going 8.5. So I don't know if the long track audience is gonna know how fast an 8.5
really
is.
fast.
But it's pretty fast, yeah. So if I'm going 8.5, there's no way he's outsiding me. No way, because he has to do more distance than me, and I mean, we're all pretty tired because of the end of the race and the 15 being so hard on the legs. So I knew I had to tight, and that the fact that I opened and had to close again is already a mistake that you can see blatantly, right? So I think just looking at a lot of races, you can start understanding what's a technical mistake, what's a tactical mistake, and what should every skater be doing with like their own disposition and qualities. So yeah, I know that if I'm going 8.5s, 8.4s at the end of a 15, the likeliness of me getting passed outside is very low. I think a few skaters can do it, but it's very rare. And yeah, Steven is definitely one of the two skaters I have in mind because he's so good on the outside, but it's going to be very difficult even for him. So I think if I'm going maybe 8.7, 8.8, I'm a lot more vulnerable on the outside. But at that high speed at the end of a race, no one's going to try to hook me outside, and it's going to be very hard.
Gotcha. So I put together a list of questions. This is just my ignorance, stuff I don't understand about short track. We can get through these really quickly because they're really quite simple. So first question I have is, when I see a final, and let's say it's a 500, do I always know exactly how many guys will be in that final?
You never know exactly, because there can be advancement, but there's a maximum of 6. So for security reasons, if you're having more than 6 people in the 500, it's pretty sketchy. Normally a final has 5 skaters, so it can be 5 or 6, and I guess you can have 4 if someone like last minute says they're injured. But normally the if I had to answer with one number, it would be 5, and in some rare cases 6.
Okay. And that's for the 500. What about the 1,000 and the 15?
1,000 is always same as 500, and
Okay.
15, because it's a slower race. I wouldn't even say slower, just longer race. They allow more people. So the most I've seen is 9, but normally we're 7. So
Okay.
if there's a lot of advancement because of illegal context, then you can go to 9. Uh, I've actually seen in some junior competition recently 12, but I'm pretty sure they were not following the rules, because that's just blatantly dangerous. So
Okay.
yeah, if I had the same thing, if I had to answer one number for the 15, I would say 7, and it can go up to 9 in some rare cases.
Gotcha. And then you used a term earlier in this discussion. You said pole position. So when I get to the A final and the 500, how is it determined who's set up where?
Right. So that's going to be something that's a lot easier to understand for the long track audience. It's just the times. The
Okay.
fastest guy in the qualifications uh, has the best pole, the best position on the line.
And that's all the way to the left.
Yeah, I think I would like the rule to change, because short track is not a time-based sport. Even though times are important, I think it's more of a tactical-based sport. So let's say I'm doing a 500 and I know that my best strategy to win the 500 is actually to kind of control the race, then for sure my time is going to be slower. But that doesn't mean I should get a slower, like a worse position on the line than someone who followed the fast skater all the way to the line. But that's just my opinion. Just don't take it from me. The rule right now is the fastest guy, the fastest guys on the after like semifinals get the first position, second position, and third position on the line, and
Gotcha.
the same thing. So yeah, they just rank the times and put the skaters on the line.
Well, help me analyze the following video, because this is you
Okay.
on pole position in a 500 final. And what I find interesting about this is that, you start your skating and your left skate is way inside until you get to the blocks. So is the rule basically that you just have to get inside the blocks when you get to the corner? Is it that simple?
Yeah, it's that simple, pretty much. We can show the video, and I'll have a pretty funny story about that video after.
I don't know how you got your left in there. Good Lord. that is As a long tracker, that just freaks me out. Not gonna lie. And then the other thing I like about this image is we really get to see how much you take up the track. That image where you're sculling there and you're like covering up all of the rest of the skaters.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, that's what I use. That's one of my strengths, and I try to use them as.
So what's your
as
story?
I can. But yeah, basically, to answer the question first, you see, we can put our hand on the ice, so everything, like every part of your body can be inside of the track except for the skates. That's the general rule of thumb. And inside of the track is just the corners. So technically, I could go like pretty much in the blue line and come back, as long as I come back before the block. So as long as I'm inside the blocks, I'm good. Outside the blocks, pretty much, yeah. I'm good to go. And for that story, so that was the A final. I won that race, but I was against Steven, that you see second on the line, and we knew that the first guy out of the blocks, like on the first corner, would win that race, because we all know our abilities. I know how fast he can go when he's in front. He knows how fast I can go when I'm in front. So we were in the changing room and we were like, yeah, this race is the guy who wins the race is the guy who's gonna be first on the first block. And that's why you see me rushing so hard, because Steven has the best starts on the circuit, and even though he's outside and technically he's doing more distance than me, I know he can overtake me on the outside on the start. So I was just like trying to fight for my life to prevent him from outsiding me at that point, and I managed to stop him. But yeah, it was pretty close. And after that, we settled for our positions, because we knew that how the race was going to go, pretty much. And the weekend after that, he was the one on pole position, and I ended up getting the silver, because we just we work together so well, and I think we understand our strengths and weaknesses, and we don't try to overstep our weaknesses and try to put ego into it. So as soon as we know our positions, we race for our positions and not with our ego, and that makes us pretty good skaters.
So there was I think this was either 1,000 or a 15 that I was watching, and this is one that Mr. Dubois got himself DQ'd. And I think this is one where you made a pass to the inside, and then some guys came around, and it appeared that he got a little frustrated, and then he came back trying to get his track position back, and then he put his hands on this Korean guy and just shoved him out of the way. Let's take a look at this real quick. So that's probably not legal, huh?
Yeah, well, okay. That's also that was a for continent competition last year. I think with the 1,000 meter. If you see, I'd like you to put that video back again, because
Sure.
pretty much I do a track pattern and the Korean reacts to it, and Steven has no space to go there. So, and the Chinese guy squeezes him. So it was like it was just unfortunate, because he knew that he was going to get called on that, because he's the one putting the hand on the guy, but it wasn't on purpose, right? So he had no space, and like I was saying, it's better that he puts his hand and try to like dissipate the shock than he just bumps into it full speed, into the Korean guy full speed. So that's something that is pretty interesting. But he would say the same thing as me. The reason why he got into that position is that his pass on the Chinese guy wasn't clear enough in the first place, and then he got into a position where the Chinese guy could squeeze him, which led into him bumping into the Korean. But yeah, I think analyzing consequences in short track is very difficult, because you have to analyze the why before the consequence.
Yeah, that part makes the sport, I'm sure, really challenging at times for the fans, because if they hear a call and it's, well, my eyes told me something, but the guys, I'm sure you trust the guys that are making the calls, and it's, you guys are going ridiculously fast, and there's a bunch of you in a small space, and things are going to happen.
And I think that's the beauty of it too, is that first of all, anything can happen, and there's excitement to it. So I think for the fans, for the really like very, very casual fans, it's just very exciting to watch, and they don't understand anything, but it's like, whoa, they're going very fast and they're bumping into each other. So it's like almost like roller derby. But for like the casual fans, or the fans that start getting into the sport, it can be frustrating because they don't understand the calls all the time. So I think my responsibility as a high performance athlete and in my sport is to try to educate and just simplify as much as I can the rules, so that the jump from casual fan to, okay, I understand what's happening, isn't that big anymore. And I think that's also a big responsibility on ISU and the short track community to just clarify the rules, because sports with, like, let's say we just take Formula One, for example. The rules in Formula One are pretty crazy, like the lane priorities and everything, but the fans still get into it. So I don't think that's the biggest obstacle to fans getting into our sport. I think it's very possible. We just have to do it clearly and put some emotions into it, so that people can support us as much as they can.
So another thing I was thinking about, I watched a lot of the video from these first two events, and it seems like Montreal is a good place, good fans. It's an intimate atmosphere. It seems like there's some real energy in the building. In long track, we have tracks that have different geometries, and you got some there at altitude, and some places are faster than others. So each of these buildings kind of has its own personality in terms of the track itself. In short track, I mean, from place to place, you're really not going to have a lot of variability, are you?
Well, the ice quality is a big thing. Besides that, it's the stands and the fans that give us the energy. But yeah, I think you're right in saying that the dimensions don't change. It's pretty much always the same thing, except for two things, like the ice quality. So you have faster ice. Like same thing as long track. Like altitude is always faster.
Yeah.
But then let's say Salt Lake is very fast, but it's very chippy as well because they use distilled water, I think, something like that. I'm not tech savvy on that, but yeah, basically, you have some ice that grip a lot, so that you're gonna be able to carve into the corners very well. Some ice don't like prevent you from turning at all, so it's very difficult. You have to adapt your strategy accordingly. So yeah, I have like Korea for me is always a little more challenging because I turn a little less. It's slower, so it gets in the legs a lot more if you're pulling, and I like to pull my races. So yeah, everyone has their favorite ice. And the second thing that changes is also the mats. The mats are not always the same distance from like the
Oh,
ice.
really?
So some of the ice you can have like more space on the exit, and for a big guy like me, Montreal is great because we're one of the widest like ice platforms on the planet. But for some people, it's not as big as as of an advantage. And yeah, I think that can change a lot. So for me, yeah, I was super happy about my good results in the beginning of the season, but I'm also aware that I've been on ridiculously good conditions to perform. 2 weeks on my home ice, with like conditions I know. I love the ice in Montreal. My fans, I get to sleep in my bed at night. I get
Yeah.
my nutritionist with me. Like every staff possible is with me. I'm leaving tomorrow for China. Some of the staff won't be there. I'll be in a hotel in a foreign country with foreign food. So that's also something that I think long trekkers can relate to because it's the same thing for everyone.
Yeah.
So
It's tough.
yeah, it is tough, but that's the best part of it. Like if I was always in Montreal, I wouldn't like it, and if I was never in Montreal, I'd be pretty bummed to not be able to share that experience with my family and friends. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So when you get to a final, pretty much everybody that's on the line with you, there's generally not going to be too many surprises. You know all these guys, right?
Yeah.
Do you have any pre-race strategy, or is it all just read and react as the race goes?
It's a very good question. So I talk to my coach before every race, and nowadays it's less of him telling me what to do, but more of me telling him what I want to do and just counter verifying with him if he thinks it's a good idea. But yeah, basically we know the skaters, so it's like okay, this guy likes to pull as well, so you'll probably be fighting for a lead with him, or this guy is very patient, so you don't have to be so preoccupied with what he is going to be doing the first leg of the race, but be careful in the last leg. And yeah, I think we've seen a lot of my races being led and just pulled from the first lap to the back lap to the last lap. But there's also a lot of races where I'm actually not that much in front because I know that's not in my advantage. I do end up in front at some point because I mean, you have to be in front to win a race, right? At some point, it's
Yeah.
very rare that you're going to see someone win a race and never be in front at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I like to play with that, and the way I lead also, or the way I decide to make a track pattern, depending on who I knows can react to what. I think the best example of me having to be careful of what I want to do, depending on who's on the line. At some point last year, I had a semifinal, and there was one skater who's very strong. I won't mention his name, but very strong, but not super. I think it was his first World Cup, and he was getting to the finals already, which is very good. But I think he didn't read into my track pattern, so we ended up bumping into each other because I went very deep. So when I go deep, it most of the time it prevents people from building speed to pass me, but he didn't read into it and just rammed me pretty much. So he got disqualified. I got advanced, but still, I think like I have to be aware of that because, like I was saying, every contact is a bad contact pretty much. So I didn't do the track according to who I knew could like what could be happening, and then that was a mistake on my part.
So let's talk relays.
Yeah, sure.
So you're doing the 5,000 relay, so it's you and 3 other guys.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a long distance. You're going 1.5 laps at a time, right?
Yeah.
So,
We can change.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is possible to change. We can do 2 lappers if you want. We can do 3 lappers, but there's a general agreement that everyone does 1.5 because it's the best solution. It's
Okay.
the one that gets better results. So pretty much everyone does the same thing. But you're gonna see sometimes. I think the American team, the girls' American team, does not always do the 1.5. Sometimes they do more. Like let's say Kristen, who has incredible power, incredible legs, might do a little more because the 4th girl might not be able to keep us as well. So yeah, you can have some strategies like that, but generally people do 1.5. Yes.
if you have one group that's going 2 laps and everybody else is doing 1.5, is it just chaos out there?
Yeah, it can be pretty hard to navigate, but usually the groups that do 2 laps at the beginning are going to readjust at the end, and it's just so that one girl can have like one less exchange or something like that. So it's not too bad. Like there's no one doing like completely something else for the whole relay. Sometimes it's just a few first laps just to help someone out, and then it helps the girl at the end. But we don't see that much of a big difference because
Gotcha.
either they're in the back or they're in the front. But it's very manageable.
The mixed relay, are you participating in that as well?
Yeah. I think I believe you forgot the bronze medal we got at the mixed relay on the count. Yeah, but yeah, I do participate in that, and that's pretty crazy story actually because last year we got almost no results in the mixed relay, but we had the best men's team in the relay and pretty much the best women's team as well. So we were both ranked first, but when we came together, it didn't work. So yeah, it was very frustrating, and we worked a lot on that during the summer, not only in training but also with the psychologist and like just mental prep guy. Just understanding how to communicate between sex, because it's not always easy, right? So they have a way to communicate, we have our way to communicate, and there's no right or wrong answer. It's just finding a place to meet in the middle and understanding what does that particular person need and how do you need to tell it to that person so she's going to understand or he's going to understand, right? I think we're used to training separately, and we've been having good results on our own, so it's easy to believe that our method is the best method. But there's a bunch of different methods, and we have to be able to understand that different methods apply equally as great to different people, and that by communicating efficiently, it's the best way we're going to get collectively better results.
Are there rules in the mixed relay in terms of when the girls and the guys are going? Is it always female, male, male?
So I was talking about the exchanges in the 5,000 and 3,000. Like girls do 3,000 meter relays when they're only them. So you can do pretty much what you want, but for the mixed relay, it's very strict just because you don't want guys skating at the same time as girls, and you don't want just chaos, basically. Yeah. So what happens, the distance is 2,000 meters, so a lot shorter than what the boys do and a little bit shorter than what the girls do. And it goes 2.5 laps, the girls start, and then 2.5 laps with the boys, and then everyone does 2 laps and it's over. So it feels more like a sprint pretty much. Yeah. It's very exciting. I think it's a good addition to the short track distances. I'm not too sure about the long trackers doing mixed relays though. I'm having like mixed feelings about it, but I think in short track it works very well, and we should continue doing it. Yeah.
So I grabbed a clip of an exchange. And I have to tell you, so I've been in long track this is my 9th season.
Okay.
And I've only been doing short track for summer training, I think for 2 years. So I have an enormous amount of respect for you.
Thank you.
Because short track is so painful. I struggle with the relays. We always do that to warm up, and nobody ever wants to be with me because I'm terrible at it. But I pulled up this clip from one of the relays, and tell me, to me, I look at this clip and I say, this is the absolute definition of how to do a pass. Like the setup, the push, like you watch, this is Dubois. This is, I mean, he looks like a rocket to me in this clip.
Keeping that speed going. Here's the handoff. And it's Dubois. It's usually all but academic when that
I mean,
happens.
am I overstating it? Was that like, was I being hyperbolic there, or that just looked incredible to me?
Yeah, it's a great exchange. I think in that particular moment, it was also easier for us to do a good exchange because we were having less pressure, right? So
Yeah.
that's also a thing we could play with. Like, if you create a gap at some point, then being able to spread your legs, because normally you don't want to spread your legs normally, because if you're getting in contact with another team, then you get disqualified. So you want to stay in your lane and very, very clean, very composed. But like that was Felix pushing Steven, another one of our teammates, and yeah, that push was amazing. And the
Yeah.
thing with Steven is that he's kind of like our secret weapon in the relay because he's super light. We're like three big guys and one that Steven is very, very light. So we almost have a 20 to 25 kilo difference. So if I'm pushing or Felice is pushing him, or even Joe is one of our strongest pushers. So either one of us pushing him is just a crazy advantage on the other teams because most of the time, like Koreans, Chinese, they pretty much all have the same weight, right? So the disadvantage that we have is that we need someone to be able to, Steven needs to be able to push someone, and that the difference, well, like we don't see the difference that much. So we try to work on people getting pushed by Steven, and it's working very good right now. But as soon as someone pushes Steven, then when it's the other way around, it's crazy fast. It's amazing for us. It's just being part of that team and seeing, because I was in the middle of the ice when I saw that push, and it's just like, damn, I'm so lucky, you know. I could be on the other guys' team working my butt off to try to catch that gap, but I get to get the gap handed in on a silver plating for me.
So let's talk about short track,
Yep.
the sport, but some of the things that have changed somewhat recently. So let's start with something that I noticed this year that I think it's new. So when did we decide that each country had to have a nickname now? So you're on the Ice Maples. So where did that come from?
Yeah. Honestly, when I first heard about it, I was like, no, this is not going to work. But it's working pretty well. I think it's more of a marketing thing. We were talking about bringing like clearer and just more exciting stuff to short track to bring the fans with us, and I think it's a step in the right direction. Is it the definitive step and the final step of making short track a widespread sport? Maybe not, but I think it's just part of what ISU and the skaters want to bring to the sport. So yeah, we had a bunch of suggestions for the names, and the Canadian team had to vote for some of them, and I'm happy we went with Ice Maples because I didn't want to be called like a Ice Raccoon or something like that. So I'm pretty happy with the Ice Maples.
Well, that's all kind of funny marketing stuff, but something that I think maybe is a little bit more interesting, this concept of this crystal globe. I think that's only maybe 1 or 2 years old. How important is that to you?
It is very, very important. I think it kind of took the place of the overall world championship that we had before. So it helps crown like a winner of the season, which I think is very interesting. And we still have the world championships after, but it's more of like individual distance, so people can really focus on one distance. But yeah, it's very important. But the biggest part for me is the team Crystal Globe. That's just came. It's very new. We had the Crystal Globe for 2 years now. You're right, but the team Crystal Globe is very new, and that's my main objective right now. And I think that just brought the whole Canadian team together. And yeah, we're very, very motivated, and we really hope we can get it. We're in a good position right now, but yeah, nothing's played, and we're aware that the Asian World Cups are going to be very hard. So we're working towards it.
Yeah, time to embrace the challenge because it's going to be a challenge.
Sure.
So Another thing that I've thought about recently as I prepared to talk to you is in long track, our our season is very defined because especially in a place like Milwaukee, we only have the oval from September to March, right?
Right.
So the off season is very clear. You're not skating after March, right? And then we have all the stuff that we go and do. Inlining and short track and the hard cardio stuff and weights and everything, right? So, but I was thinking about like with short track, you guys can pretty much skate year round. So when you say summer training, like what does that really mean? What is a short track off season, or is there one, or does it only last for April?
No, it's a good question because it depends on the season and where we're at in the cycle. So I'm anticipating the fact that the upcoming off season is going to be pretty short, and I'm probably going to be on ice again after like 4 to 5 weeks. But it really depends on what the goal of the seasons are, and what we want to build for the upcoming season. Normally, if I take just a normal short track off season, we're gonna take like about a month completely off, or like off. When I say completely off, there's always like some general cardio maintaining and stuff like that, but like no weights, and no obviously no ice, some biking and some running, just to keep everything just going. Maybe like one completely off week, and then we're progressively gonna start building up again with some weight training, some cardio workout, but like a little bit harder, and like some VMAs and lactic training progressively. And through that, so the physical part is always going to be built a little faster, and then through that we're going to start putting some ice sessions in, because it's very technical and very hard to turn as well. We're gonna be very progressive and mindful to not rush things. I always have that feeling when I'm back on ice again, even if it's just like 2 or 3 weeks, that I'm going way faster than I actually am, because it's scary. Short track is a scary sport. So if you forget that feeling and you go back on ice and try to push it already like super fast, you might just fall or just get over scared. So I think it's important to build it up carefully. And yeah, eventually we go at a point in the summer that we're training our hardest. I think the point that we train our hardest in the year is definitely during the summer, and it's like big lactical training and speed training on ice, and like huge bike trainings pretty much. That's how I would put it. And weight training is varies from from person to person. I'm of the idea that for me weight training is important, but I wouldn't want to push it too hard just for the weight part. Being a tall guy in short track is pretty hard because I have to manage the ice if I'm too heavy, and so I try to stay very, very lean. So my weight is often closer to a shorter guy's weight, just because of the advantage I would have in putting in like not being too heavy. I think that's not the case in long track, which is pretty interesting because you just want to put the maximum power output that you can. I think short track, you want to put the maximum power that the ice and you turning will tolerate, right? Because no point in squatting 180 kilos if you can't turn on the ice. So it's always like kind of fine line and fine tuning, fine balancing between the power, the weight, the technique. If you're very powerful but you don't have the technique to be able to maintain that power or to turn with that power, it's useless. So that's why I was talking about being as efficient in training as possible, and that's what we have in mind. So for us, yeah, it's definitely summer more about the physical, start of the summer more about the technical, then building up to like really lactic and endurance training with speed training on ice, very intense. And then during the season we still train hard, of course, but the general volume of training is a lot less, just to prepare for competitions and be ready.
So how much time do you spend thinking about your rock and your bend and the technical aspects of your gear? I mean, do you kind of have your numbers dialed in and you don't have to think about it anymore?
So yeah, I think you're the worst. I'm the worst person you could have asked that question to, because I skate with anything. Like and I'm not understating it or overstating it. I'm just I can skate with my blades almost broken sometimes, but that's just me. I think some of my teammates and some skaters like to have their numbers dialed into a queue. Uh, yeah, for me, it's just if I get the time to get used to something, then I'm good. My fastest 500-meter race that I did in Montreal the last few weekends ago, I skated with a big chip on my blade, and my coach was like, "Yeah, we need to change your blades right now." And I'm like, "Man, I just skated my PB. Don't change my blades. I'm going back in 15 minutes. I have another race. It's not. We have no time to change." So yeah, I'm pretty okay with blades, and I think I'm also very lucky that we have a history in Canada of having really really good blade techs. One of my blade tech is Laurent Dandjinou, who actually trained the American team as well in short track, and is very known in the game for being pretty much the best at what he does. He also makes his own boots, which is crazy. He can do any repairs I need. So I basically give him my skates and tell him like, yeah, do the usual. He knows what to do with me, and I don't have to mind to give any more energy into it. But for some skaters, it's almost like a religion, and I think if you don't get lost into it, it's okay. But yeah, definitely, it's a big part of the sport, and that's why I don't like to give too much energy into it. If there's someone that I know of trust that I can give it to, and just concentrate on my tactical and technical aspect of the sport.
So we've made it well over an hour into this conversation. I've not asked you once about your celebrations.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to finish not interview but the podcast show. I think that's something that's very close to me. I think from the long track experience and maybe train of thought, it might seem cocky. I don't know what you think. I'll ask you, what do you think about the celebrations?
I didn't research it a ton. My assumption is at some point you just did it for some reason, like it just came naturally and then you just started doing it. I didn't get the sense that you're like, okay, next time I win, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, or I'm going to do a Steph Curry thing. Like,
yeah,
it didn't seem to me like it was probably very premeditated, but I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, I'll tell you all about it. So, I've always wanted short track to be a huge sport and to gain popularity and to share my love with the sport with everyone, because it's not super popular, and I think it's a sport that deserves to be known. So for me, growing up, I saw like short trackers win, and most of them it was like, yeah, I'm super happy I won. But then there's like almost no emotion being shown. So I come from a background where I did a lot of sports, and in a lot of sports people celebrate, you know. So for me it was super important, and one of the guys that I remember seeing skate and being like, yeah, this guy is good for our sport and he makes me feel good about our sport, is Apollo Ono. I think it was just crazy seeing him on ice, and that wasn't even because he celebrated that much, just because of his presence and how he tried to express himself while skating. So for me, self-expression is very important, and the wing celebration just came because, you know, I live with roommates. I had at that time I had two roommates. The first time I won a senior competition, and I told you a little bit how it worked in the World Cups. But basically, in the morning you have the repêchage, and then afternoon you have the main program. So I was in the main program at home. So basically, like 3 hours before my race, I'm sitting on my sofa just talking to my roommates, right? And so they knew I was doing the main program, and they were like, yeah, but what if you win? What are you going to do? And I'm like, well, I don't think I'm going to win. So let's just concentrate on one race at a time, right? And they were like, no, but you should do like something crazy. It's like in front of your fans, of your family and everything. I'm like, okay, I'll guess I'll try to do something. And then one of my friends like, you should do this, the wings. And we were all joking about it because it was like, no way am I going to do the wings. And when I crossed the line, I didn't even think about it. It just came super naturally. So it was kind of premeditated because we did talk about it before, but I had no intention of doing it, and I had no clue I was gonna win that race. It was my first win internationally, so I was just super excited, and yeah, it just came out naturally. And the crazy part was after I did the wings, I just saw everyone in the stands doing them as well.
Oh,
Like the announcer was like, "Yeah, William just won. Celebrate with him," and just everyone in the stands, and it was pretty full. Were doing the wings, and I was like, "Damn, this is what I've always wanted my sport to look like." And from that point on, I was like, "I'm always gonna celebrate because if one person in the stand can feel how I feel when winning, it's great. And imagine if everyone in the stands can just feel my emotions when I'm doing something great." So yeah, it just was super. It was a definitely a special moment for me, and that's also why I decided to make my own kind of clothing brand inspired by the wings, and my kids being able to wear it and get inspired and hopefully make their own brand and their own celebrations one day.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
awesome.
That's close to my heart for sure.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So 2026 Olympic year next year. We talked about a lot on this show because we don't know where the long track venue is yet. It doesn't exist maybe. From a short track standpoint, do you know where you guys are going to be?
I assume we're going to be at the same location that we're having the World Cup, World Tour stage in Milan this upcoming February.
Okay.
So in February, yeah, February we're going to Milan for competition. So I assume it's going to be the exact same ice rink, and that's
Okay.
why it's super important to be there and be ready because I want to have the same kind of sensation and feeling I'm hoping to have at the games, and yeah, so just a big learning experience here and trying to take as much of that competition as I can to hopefully be able to bring that level and that intensity to the games as well.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah, qualification in the national team in Canada is going to be super hard. We're about like eight guy for four spots, so it's going to be pretty hard. And even though I'm doing great right now, it's absolutely no guarantee that I get to skate the Olympics. So um, yeah, just try to stay in the moment and work on what I need to work on right now to be as ready as I can to participate to the Olympics.
Yeah, it's a great attitude.
Thank
Um,
you.
so you're 23, so you'll only be 24 years old when 26 happens.
Yeah.
Are you thinking about what you're going to do with the sport? Are you going to stay short track? Are you going to try to do some long track and stay in short track? What does the future hold?
So for me, it really depends on what results I get in the games and if I'm satisfied. Like I said, I don't want to go into long track feeling some kind of way about short track, right? I want to be done with short track and ready for a new challenge. So that doesn't mean that I need to get a gold medal in short track for me to be satisfied. It just means that I have to be proud of what I've accomplished in my sport. So yeah, I'm gonna see after the games, but definitely that's a possibility. And something I haven't said is I've already been talking with the Canadian long track national team, and I've had some trainings with them in the past. So they know me, I know them. I know a bunch of skaters on the long track team. Laurent, David. David Larue was one of the guys I used to train with when I was on short track. He used to skate short track too. So I know the team very well. I respect them a lot. And yeah, when and if the switch happens, it's going to be done the right way and also on my terms. So yeah, I'm excited thinking about it, but I don't know if it's going to be now or in 4 years, you know. So I really want to focus on what I'm doing right now before even thinking about doing something else, and that's just how I am with short track, but in life in general.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good attitude. Stay in the moment. We won't get too far ahead of ourselves. I think now is a good time for us to wrap this up because you got to get on a giant airplane tomorrow and collect your
Exactly.
thoughts and
Big day ahead of me.
yeah, make your way on the completely other side of the planet. I'll definitely be watching. It's been really fun getting to know you. I think your attitude is excellent, and I think, you know, those moments in 22 when you had some setbacks and you had to reevaluate and you came forward with a better attitude and now you're having success, you know, and I want to believe that a lot of that is based on you resetting here and not just because you lifted more weights or did more low walks or something. So yeah, I think it's, but you're right. I mean, just within the Canadian team, there's some awesome skaters, so they're going to keep you humble and keep you at the front.
Exactly. You said it. That's and yeah. Just before wrapping up, I want to thank you for the opportunity to let me talk and hopefully explain a little bit of short track and who I am to the long track community and also the world. So yeah, just thanks for having me, and hopefully we can talk again eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. I will. I'll message you, and then we can stay in contact. I'm excited to see more of your success here in this Asian side, and then of course in 2026, and see what you guys can do, what the Ice Maples can do in 2026. So
All right.
this is Will. Should we say Will or William? We're gonna say William Dandjinou. He's an awesome dude. This is a great session, and we are out of here.